has his father's eyes. Welcome to the Mostly Pot Out Night. Mostly, I am Graveyard, joined by my co-host Salem.
Hello.
This is episode 94 of our weekly All Things Horror podcast. So while we are taking a break from the Omen, we just couldn't help ourselves but to another round of evil-born children. So whether you're part of a satanic cult, the mother of a clone, or your child is Lucifer, what is a parent to do? So join us as we eat chalky chocolate mousse, learn Italian at the wrong times, and play a rousing game of dodgeball. So, as Immaculate had just came out into streaming services, we decided to take a break while we're waiting for the first Omen to be released. But like I said, we're going to the other, unborn or evil-born child movies with Rosemary's Baby from 1968, Fear No Evil from 1981, I believe, and then Immaculate that just came out.
Yeah.
And well, these movies, let's say we can see why they're not really a franchise. Not that the Omen needs to be either, but So, let's get into this with Rosemary's Baby from 1968. I'll just preface this by saying this movie's too long.
I don't know if it's too long. I think that when you're watching it, you're not seeing anything new, right?
Yeah.
But in 1968, this was very new.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, you got to realize every weird, naked Satan cult movie takes their cues from this movie. They would not exist in their current form if it wasn't for this movie that came first.
That is true. Yeah, for 1968, this was a pretty out there movie.
Right. Again, you have to watch it knowing that this was made in 1968. And, it predates all, general horror aside from, classic horror stuff, right?
Right.
So, any kind of modern horror, this predates it and pretty much sets a lot of it up.
And, and the real life stuff that happens around this movie, too, if you watch the Cursed Films episode about Rosemary's Baby, is pretty bizarre as well.
Well, Roman Polanski wrote and directed it, so there you go.
That, too. But, the ties that people are saying, there's ties between, Charles Manson in this because of Sherry Tate and all that stuff. Especially the apartment this is shot at, I think was part of Manson's family. I recall correctly.
An apartment in New York?
Well, it wasn't actually shot in New York.
I'm just saying.
But yeah. So, this stars really young Mia Farrow. And pretty much it's the only, I'd say, star of this that we know of.
Well, modern star, yeah.
Yeah. But, like I said, this is a long movie, so we'll keep kind of the recap a little short and just couldn't do the highlights of this. As essentially we meet Rosemary and her husband, Guy, who is an actor. And they, say to the point a lot, oh, your husband's an actor. What have I seen him? Oh, he's been in these 2 plays. And then, Yamaha commercials. That's pretty much it. So they're, discussing with.
But okay, here, look, now preface this, right? 1968, that was enough to live on and raise a family with.
And what I will call a giant ass apartment.
Well, I'm just saying, in 1968, as long as you had a job, it didn't matter what it was. You could have an apartment, a wife who does not work, and raise children.
and spend $200 in 1968 on a single chair.
Right. I'm just saying, that's nowadays, can you imagine a guy who's an actor that works sometimes raising a family on that one income? There's no way in hell. You'd need 5 roommates in one tiny apartment to make it.
Right. Yeah, they have money. There's no
well, no,
question on
it's
that.
not they have money. It's just the world has changed
Right.
very, very much.
Yeah. But anyway, they're meeting with their I'd say current landlord, right? With the dinner, and I guess he cooked a leg of lamb. Did not look like lamb to me.
Well, it was a big chunk of meat with a bone in it.
He sure did not look like lamb to me.
I don't know what the hell it was. What was his name? Hutch. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is just weird to think like, oh, you have that kind of relationship with your landlord, and the landlord has that kind of relationship with your tenant. But
yeah, back in the old days, you did. If you rented a room from somebody, they were like, family, basically.
Right. But like, hey, we want to get this other apartment. They kind of looked at it, and I'd say, the complex is old for sure. A little bit run down from what they are seeing, but they get inside and like, oh, this is a huge ass apartment. What's even more mind boggling is that was separated into two. That means the original apartment was like the entire floor.
Right. Well, like, yeah, it used to be, from what, Hutch was kind of gave us like a history.
Like
of
1890s,
right?
Like Satanic Cult, and
right?
All
but
that.
Yeah, it used to be like a fancy place, like rich people, like penthouses type stuff.
Right. I said where the apartment was a single floor,
right?
Which is huge.
Well, I think it was more than that. I mean, I think there was more than one apartment on the floor. It was just giant.
Oh yeah. But eventually they do move into it. The lady that was there was, I think this is like 89, that she kind of had, dementia, and she moved a secretary in front of the closet that was a adjoining closet. And really like huge hallways, vaulted ceilings, and just astounding. So eventually they move in there. They kind of get all the furniture out, and they're like, hey, we're going to eat dinner on the floor of our new place, as you do. And then, rightfully so, they say, make love to me. And you do. And like, they're newlyweds, and they kind of get into the apartment. They, in my opinion, it will look great as is, but then they painted it all white with, I'd say, the unhappiest painters I've ever seen.
Well, have you ever seen a happy painter?
No.
So I mean, I don't know what you're judging that on. I've never seen a happy painter.
But yeah, they get all taken up there. I mean, decent sized kitchen, really big living room. They're like, oh, that'll be the nursery. I'm like, that's a giant ass nursery. And they get kind of introduced to the elderly couple next door. Like, hey, we don't want, the guy's like, hey, I don't want this to become a normal thing. We're young and we get attached to this old couple. They're just going to be calling us for kind of everything. But regardless, they're working on the house, and she gets to meet someone the elderly couple took in while doing laundry in the creepy basement. Like, hey, I have this necklace. Oh, it's full of stinky stuff. I don't know if they ever officially said what it was.
Canis root. They said it like 100 times, dude.
Well, I didn't know that was inside of it. They just said it sounded like mold or smelled like mold. So they meet her, and she's like, yeah, hey, we should do laundry every day. Cool. They go out and then come back to the apartment, and well, she's dead. She jumped out the window. And then, like I said, they meet the elderly couple, like, here's this necklace for good luck. And it's the same necklace filled with the same smelly substance, tannis root. And they kind of just get to know the couple by coming over for dinner. Like, the wife goes, I have a 2-inch steak. You guys should come over for dinner. Okay. So they do, and they find out that Roman, the husband, has essentially been everywhere. Like, name a city, in any place, I've been there. I've been to Nome, Fairbanks, all that stuff, Alaska, all these places. And we just get more exposition dump that, the husband guy is, I'd say, a struggling actor, but still well enough to do. And they're planning a family. And essentially, after the first night, the guy goes, hey, we should hang out with these elderly couple more. I like them. And she's like, okay, I didn't think we were going to do that. It's like, no, it'd be great. So they kind of just becoming more and more involved with their lives. Eventually they go over there for drinks one night, and she just, is drinking and having a good time. And the guy seems really taking a liking to Roman. Like, he's kind of like his mentor at this point in time. So anyway, they're eating dinner by themselves a couple nights later, and she brings over some chocolate mousse, some chalky chocolate mousse is what Rosemary says, because hers doesn't taste right. And she's kind of immediately suspicious of some things. And, she eventually gets, drugged after only eating part of the chocolate mousse. And, a very satanic sex scene, it occurs.
Well, like I said,
people.
Yeah, like I said, this is like every movie you've seen where they have like a cult naked sex scene. This is like where they get it from.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of old people that are naked. There's blood and sex and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, and looking at this after watching all the Fulci, and Argento's, like, you can see where they got a lot of that stuff from. The dream sequences were just trippy as hell. In a good way though. They were interesting. So anyway, they're like, oh man, I'm finding all this stuff out. The husband had been keeping track of, her periods, and she wakes up from the drug state. She's like, I had this weirdest dream. I was like, yeah, we did it. I was passed out. Well, it's kind of like, necro-like. It's great. Okay. And she finds out that she's pregnant. She's seen the doctor who wants to get a couple blood tests, and they're like, no, everything's fine. But
yeah, I don't know what's worse about that is, like, one, like, oh, it was like, necro-like, right? That's one thing.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's necro-like where you're attacking your unconscious wife. That is concerning.
Yes. But guy's a giant douche. Anyway.
Yeah.
He becomes more so, obviously, as it goes on. He starts getting kind of like, a guy that went blind. Yeah, I have his part now. Cool. And so he's getting better acting jobs. She's pregnant and she doesn't want anyone to really know about it. But guy tells the neighbors, like, immediately, like, oh, this is great. Don't go see this doctor. We have this doctor. He is fantastic. You'll love him. She's like, oh, okay. Guy goes, we don't have money to go see both of them.
The byline for this movie should be gaslighting the movie.
Oh, yes.
Because that's essentially what the movie is just like her finding more and more concerning weird things and then being gaslit by everyone around her. No, it's fine, totally fine. Oh, it's everything's good. Don't worry about nothing.
Yeah. But she sees this doctor and he's like, every pregnancy, no pregnancy is alike. Don't talk to your friends about, don't talk to other doctors about, don't talk to anyone about anything strange with your pregnancy, because they don't know what yours is like. And I gotta say, at this point in time, like, when you know what's going on and you watch this movie again, holy shit, like, you see all of the manipulation happening because you know the ending of it, right? And it's very, very clear rewatching it, I would say.
Have you seen it before?
Yeah. But I'm probably the first time I saw it, I didn't know all that stuff. I'm saying on this current rewatch, I noticed a lot more things on it. But yeah, so she's gone all that stuff. She's like, the neighbor lady is making her smoothies, I guess, if you want to call them that have all these natural tannis root and vitamins, because she's couldn't take that commercialized medicine like she wanted to with her doctor that she had. And she's like, you know what? We're going to have a party with just young people. And so she has all of her old friends over that are young and talking like stuff. She just kind of breaks down in the kitchen. She's like, I'm in pain. I'm in pain. This has been, there's been pain going on here for months now. Like, what? No, you shouldn't do that. And they like, okay, you need to do something about this. Then like, just like that, her pain stops. And the baby starts kicking at 3-ish months pregnant. And then we skip ahead of like 3 weeks till due date, I feel. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, pretty much.
So she's concerned about things going on there. She does meet up with Hutch at some point in time. It might have been before that. He essentially goes into a coma and dies because he lost the glove.
Well, yeah, because at this point she's like very, very pregnant. And then she talks to Hutch because he just comes by to visit her because he hasn't seen her in a while. And then she says, "Oh, my doctor is Saperstein." And he's like, "Oh, okay. My granddaughters were delivered by him. They're very good."
Right.
But then, they got to talking about some other things, and he's like, that's interesting. I'm going to go look that up. And he basically apparently finds something, calls her and says, "I can't tell you over the phone. I have to meet you in person.
Right.
Meet me at this building in the morning." And then, she goes there. He doesn't show up. She calls and finds out that he mysteriously went into a coma that morning.
Yep. Yeah. And then, like I said, he does eventually die. And then she starts having more and more suspicion. She's like, "Hey, we got to take this pill." No, that's later. Sorry. She stopped drinking her stuff. And Guy's like, "Oh, you got to drink it. You have to drink it. You must drink it." It's like, "No, I've been not taking it for a couple of days." Like, what? No.
Well, it's the vitamin drink. The doctor, instead of giving her natal vitamins, he says, "Oh, your neighbor old lady is going to make you this like vitamin drink with fresh herbs that's way better than any pill you can have."
Right.
And she's very suspicious. Well, she was very suspicious of it before, but after the whole pain going away thing, she just like, whatever, it's fine now.
Well, she was gaslit into it again.
Right. But now at this point, she's starting to suspect things again. And then she decides, I'm going to go to my own doctor.
Right.
Yeah, because Hutch is basically like, "Yeah, that ain't right. This isn't right. You need to go to a real doctor."
Right. But I don't think she doesn't go back to the doctor at all, does she?
Who?
Hill?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, she brings money and sees him like, okay, something's got to happen, something's not right.
Well, yeah, but basically, because she goes to the funeral, of Hutch, funeral. And there's this lady that says, "Oh, he came to a little bit. He was like delirious, but he was like, coherent enough to talk. And he said he left something for you." And he's like, "And it's this book." And he's like, "Okay." So he said the name is an anagram. And she's like, "What, the name of the book?" And she's like, "I don't know. That's just what he said."
Right.
So she takes the book home, and then she takes out the Scrabble letters to try to be the anagram of the book. The book is called like All These Witches, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And she can't figure out anything good there. She's like, "Oh, okay, that's interesting."
And there's the dog-eared page with another name that she finds out that is, separated out is Roman Castavet. How do we say his last name?
Yeah, that's the old man neighbor, right?
Yeah.
And who's a nickname for this other guy that was in the building before that was like, whatever, like a warlock or something. He was like, I forgot what he did, but he did something bad.
Right. Yeah. I think it was like Stephen, like his son was Stephen, and it turned out to be Roman.
Right.
And a very old guy that when Hutch talked about the 1890s, that's when about Roman would have been born in that building, and that's when that guy Stephen, whatever his last name was in there.
Right. Yeah.
And
so
then she's like, "Oh man, she took his glove. They're witches." She starts going hysterical. I mean, still being gaslit, but she's right.
Right.
And she, starts doing stuff, and then her water breaks.
Well, she does the whole thing where she escapes. She tells her husband. The husband ignores her. She basically figures out that the husband is part of it.
Right.
So she has to like plan an escape. after they basically house arrest her, essentially.
Because they're saying talk about witches and she's going crazy, so they start just kind of
right.
You're bedridden.
Right, yeah. So they just house arrest her, so she manages to trick them and escape, and then she goes to the other doctor.
Yes.
To find out hey, can you look at this? Played by a very young Charles Grodin.
Oh.
And then he's like, oh yeah, that's very concerning, that's very interesting, oh, this sounds very bad, it sounds like your doctor's doing all kinds of bad stuff. Who is this doctor? She's like, oh, Dr. Saperstein. And he's like, oh. And he's like, oh, yeah, just lay down in here, I'm gonna turn the light off, just don't worry about nothing, I'll be back in a little.
And she fell asleep and she woke up back in her apartment.
No, she woke up and the door opens and the doctor is standing there and he steps aside, and then her husband and Dr. Saperstein come in.
Yes.
Meaning that doctor, knowing who Saperstein was, stepped aside and let him come and pick her up.
All right. And essentially then she wakes up without child.
Yeah. She basically goes back. They're just like, all right, well, we tried this the easy way. Now we're just going to have to knock her out and wait for the baby. And then she wakes up and there's
and they're like, oh, yeah, the baby's dead. And, she's being given pills by another older couple that's there. It's like, hey, take these pills. Here's, to pump the milk. And like, what are you doing with the milk? Oh, we're just throwing it away. Okay. But she's very suspicious still. She's not taking the pills that they're giving them. She's hiding it on their wood and brick headboard.
Yeah. And also the interesting thing is the 1968 breast pump. It's just
I looked at that the first time,
with a rubber ball on it.
Yeah, I was looking. I'm like, what is that? Then I'm like, oh, okay, that is bizarre.
Old school.
Yeah, very old school. So she's doing that. And one time she's like, especially like, hey, since you're just throwing this away, I'm gonna put my meal spoon. There's like, oh no, don't do that. Why? Because for cleaning purposes, it makes it harder to clean. Okay. And she starts hearing baby crying coming through the shared wall that was between the two apartments. She's like, okay, something's going on here. This is, June 28th-ish, 1965. And someone comes and checking her. She's like turning off the air conditioner to hear better. She's like, oh, people are dying of heat. You don't want to do that. Let me turn this back on to, drown out the noise. The hallway with the closet that was between the shared wall that the previous tenant had blocked off. She's like, okay, I'm just going to start kind of going through this because I'm hearing more and more things. My husband's barely here. I'm kind of, people are trying to do stuff to me. I don't know why, what's going on there. So, she does take some time and whittles out a hole to get between the closet, and she goes into the next apartment. And, well, they're having kind of a party with everyone that we've really have ever met that's still alive, including a random guy. And yeah, they're just the painting that's on the wall over kind of the fireplace was of Stephen from the book. And there's a bassinet all in black with upside down crosses. And well, there's a baby in there and it's her baby. We don't get to see it. She goes, what'd you do to its eyes? Oh, he has his father's eyes. And like, oh, lo and behold, the husband guy got these great acting parts because he helped bring in the son of Lucifer. Hail Satan, Hail Adrian is what they named the baby. And like, well, you can either, just be a mother to him. You don't have to join our crazy cult of year one here, but just be a mom. Don't you want to be a mom? And kind of gaslight her to kind of like, okay, I'll take care of the baby. And that's it.
Well, yeah, the end is like her reaching for and picking up the baby.
Yeah, because the other woman's like, just, let's face it. She's like, you're shaking it too hard. She really was. Like, she's like rocking it hard.
Yeah, she's like an old blind lady. I'm pretty sure never had her own children. So, yeah.
Right. 2 hour and 15-minute movie. Man, I have not watched this movie in a long time. I would say probably 25-ish years. But like I said, on like paying more attention to this movie, especially with the podcast, that's why I started noticing a lot of stuff in it that I didn't notice it when I watched it, 25 years ago. I wasn't paying that close of attention then. But yeah, you're right. It is the blueprint to all these other movies. It's a blueprint to The Omen. It's a blueprint to, I feel like Argento and Fulci and the trippy dream sequences. And that's, as you said, gaslighting tremendously in this movie. And I can see why, especially for 1968, there was mild cussing, there's nudity, there's devil worship. That was pretty unknown for horror movies at that point in time.
Well, for mainstream movies, yes. There was a lot of underground weird shit, but it was all, like I said, underground. There wasn't anything like normal, like big filmmakers. This was like one of the first.
Yeah. So, I mean, does it hold up today? Yeah. I mean, is it terrifying just from a demon perspective? No, but from being gaslit, being, the wife being just put into submission. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, you also have to, I think you have to understand that this movie was made in 1968 when you watch it, because it is, it's definitely a product of its time, right?
Yes.
Like I said, some like barely working actor is able to afford, rent and a family and all that stuff because, of course the wife doesn't work, and that in 1968 that was normal.
Right.
And that's the thing is like, man, I mean, but it was like, people, you could like go to college and then work a part-time job while you're going to college and pay your tuition with that money.
What do you do for a living? I paint rocks.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but like you could get out of college without having debt because you worked a part-time job while you're there.
Yeah.
Like kids today work a part-time job and they can like maybe afford food while they're going to school. Like they're not going to pay off school. There's no way in hell that's happening. But like maybe they can eat. That's about it. That's all you're going to get. Yeah. I mean, that's the scales have changed.
Right. I mean, what else do you have for your rewatch on this? Do you remember the first time you even watched this movie?
Oh no, it was a long time ago. I don't. I have no idea when the first time I watched it. I mean, my guess is probably high school, because I think it was one of the. I think it was one of those movies I watched because it was like, I remember IFC back when IFC was good.
Yeah,
when IFC didn't have commercials, and it would play uncut movies and stuff like that. Like I'm pretty sure it was on IFC at some point in time, and I watched it. I know I watched it a couple of times then, because the first time I was like not really sure what was going on for a lot of it. Again, because I'm not from 1968, right? This is like me watching it in the 90s going like, what the fuck is going on? Because like this is life that I don't know anything about. But like, yeah, then I had to rewatch it a second time. Like, okay, you have to get in that mindset of like, yeah, this is the 60s. This is a different era. Everything's different.
Right.
So yeah, so I watched it a couple times back then, and I've watched it a few times since. I mean, I've probably watched it maybe 5-6 years ago is the most recent time. But I mean, I've watched it so many times. I don't think there's anything new that I'm going to pick up. I mean, there's not a whole lot. I mean, it's interesting, like the whole, like cult sex scene is bizarrely interesting for, again, being in the late 60s. Not really interesting for like the culture of that time, but like put on the screen of that time is different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good, but again, I think you have to go into it with the mindset of understanding this is 1968, or in the movie, I think it's 1966, but like you have to know what that means. I think for you to understand why she isn't doing anything. Why is she not just leaving? Right? Because that's a modern thing. In the 60s, that was unheard of. You didn't do that.
Right. For sure. I'll start with my highlights. I mean, the apartment was gorgeous. I mean, for only being a couple rooms, it was huge. I wish people were able to get an apartment like that on their first try.
Well, they have. I mean, they probably still do, but they're outrageously priced. But I get most of them are probably either one knocked down and rebuilt, or two cut into even tinier apartments.
Oh yeah,
like little lofts. Like each one of those rooms would be a loft.
Right. And the like I said, it was interesting to see the progression of things, right? Because you go, wow, especially when Guy is talking to her and trying to pretend things, you can see like, this is why this guy doesn't have more jobs. He's a shit actor. He is awful at what he does.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the set pieces, the even the cult thing, like it's a kind of refreshing thing was there wasn't the opposition to them, because all this other stuff, there's usually, the Christian side of it that's trying to oppose it. There's none of that. It is just pure evil.
Yeah, the only one is Hutch, and he's knocked out before he can really do anything.
Right. So I think that's interesting to see it from that point of view, that this is a satanic cult, but there's no like fighting opposition to them. And like I said, for 1968, that's pretty big for essentially evil to win. And I think Mia Farrow does a fantastic job. She plays that young housewife that's going insane, but not knowing if she's actually insane or not.
Right. Well, I guess we should like clarify basically the whole plot of the movie behind the scenes is that the husband makes a deal with those old people to let them impregnate his wife and give birth to this devil baby. And in return, he gets acting roles.
Yes.
So, and like he gets acting roles, and he gets I'm guessing money and whatever, because like at the end of it, he was like, "Oh, you don't understand what we're getting out of this deal."
Right.
So like he obviously gets more, and she just spits in his face. Obviously, she didn't want a part of it. And she finally came around to understanding, like, wow, this guy's an asshole. But it took a long time to get there.
Oh, yeah.
But that's essentially the plot of the movie. And then that's why he was in on it with the old people when she was like, "Oh, we need to go, talk to another doctor and stuff." And he was like, no, because he was he wanted the money.
Oh, yeah.
He wanted the money. He wanted to keep his acting job. So he was doing anything that they told him to do because he wanted to make sure that was reality. Like that to him was way more important than his life.
Oh, easily. Easily.
That's not a 1968 thing. He's just an asshole.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And like I said, I think like the set pieces, I think the old people were the right annoying level. Like they drove in your nerves, but that was the point, right?
Well, yeah, it's interesting because they probably do it because of that. They're not what you would expect like Satan worshipers to be.
No,
they're just like the old lady is just like very nosy and loud and annoying, but also kind of charming and funny. Also, she's not like unlikable. She's just again, very loud and in your face kind of thing. And the old guy is like, he's got a story for everything. Kind of jovial, happy go lucky, right?
Mysterious too. Like,
yeah,
like what do you do to do all these things? Well, how did you travel the world? Well, we find out it's because his dad was a Satanist and kind of went everywhere with him. I mean, it's that overall is a decent movie. What were your highlights?
Highlights is just that. It's that look at 60s life. Like what was normal then.
Right.
And it's these days it's like this is beyond bizarre. You see.
Yeah.
If people act like this modern day, like they will get divorced. I mean, it's like they will probably get arrested for like abuse. I mean, it's like a lot of it is pretty bad. Yeah. And it was just seen as normal. Like, she didn't she just trusted him implicitly. Like even when she didn't like something or didn't want to do something, he's just like, "Oh, we got to do it." And she's like, "Okay."
Right.
like immediately. It's just fascinating that, life. Well, it may not have always been like that, but at least it was portrayed like that, which is
right.
Just disturbing to me. I mean, just the way that '60s cinematography goes. I mean, it's definitely different. I mean, Roman Polanski is obviously not the standard kind of
He's
production,
artsy.
right? I mean, it's interesting. It's all over the place. It's not quite Andy Warhol, but it's interesting.
Right.
It's fun to watch, if nothing else.
Right.
Like I said, I already talked about how every weird, creepy, naked cult pretty much takes its cue from this movie. This everybody has if it's not an homage, it's a ripoff of this movie for sure.
Right.
The rotary phones are fun.
Oh yeah.
Like they don't even have touch tone phones at this point. Everywhere is a rotary phone
with 100-foot cord on it. Yeah.
Right. And
she take it to the room.
Yeah, they do have remote controls, but they're the big, huge, giant click remotes that have literally 2 buttons on them, and that's it.
Yeah,
that's all it was. And I think the best part was the old people when they started screaming "Hail Satan." I think is the funniest part of the whole movie because it's hilarious because they're so happy about it. It's not like
Satan.
Yeah, it's like at that point in the movie, you expect them to be oh, it's going to get all dark and they're going to get all serious and evil. Nope. Like that old dude is just as happy-go-lucky as he was before, but now he's screaming "Hail Satan!" And it's bizarre, but it's fun at the same time.
Well, also like he said, you don't have to join us. Just be a mom,
right?
We're not going to kill you. That's never implied that way.
Yeah, and also Mia Farrow just has a drastic haircut in the middle of the movie. In the middle of the movie or in the beginning of the movie, she has the kind of the 60s, curly bob,
Yeah.
And then in the middle of the movie, she goes to Vidal Sassoon and gets a pixie cut, which is everybody is what did you do to your hair? Every single person.
I think the same thing though.
And she's oh, it's Vidal Sassoon.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of the pixie cut. I like it, but again, I guess it's odd for a housewife in 1968 to have a pixie cut. But yeah, it's odd that in this movie she does that in the middle of the movie, and there's not really a reason for it. I mean, maybe Mia Farrow just wanted to get a haircut, and she just did. And they just wrote it into the movie. I don't know. I have no idea.
She got served divorce papers by Frank Sinatra during this movie, so maybe that caused her to get a haircut.
Maybe she just screw it. I need a haircut. I need something different, and she just does it. And she comes to work the next day, and they're what the fuck?
Right.
And they're just, all right, fine. We'll just write it into the movie.
Right. What about your low points then?
All right. You'll be rolling to my low points. We'll go into low points. Again, I think it's the counterpoint to that, the 60s life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that generic housewife that can't do anything without asking her parent or her husband's permission first.
Right.
Sucked. There's no where the hell is women's lib when you need it? I guess women's lib was mostly in the 70s. That's when the big movement of it started. But dear God.
I can see shit like this.
I can see why. Holy crap!
Yeah.
And yeah, like we were talking about earlier, the whole the husband basically admitted to raping her while she was unconscious and asleep. It's
just like necro. It's fine.
Yeah, but just because you're married doesn't mean that rape doesn't exist. What the fuck? And she's just ugh. And then she's fine. I'm what the? No.
We could have just done it in the morning. No, we need to do it last night.
Yeah, but okay. Like I said, it's one thing to sleep with an unconscious woman. Bad, still rape, but that's one thing. If you are attacking and abusing an unconscious woman while you're raping them, something is seriously fucking wrong with you. Yes. And that, I guess that they should have seen it earlier because it was very, very fucking bizarre.
Yes.
And anyway, there was this hilarious. I had to pause the movie because I was laughing so hard. When she finally goes to her other doctor's office and she's sitting in the office, the lady that comes out of the office before her looks exactly like Walter Goggins in drag. I was what? I'd literally rewind it and pause, double take. I'm is that really, like, how did he get there? It looks like Walter Goggins in drag. It was hilarious.
Wow. That's all you got?
That's all I got.
All right. Well, god damn, you don't need to sit that close to the TV.
Hey, man.
Like,
how else are you going to hear it?
Yeah. I'm watching their like faces almost on the screen. It's that close. I'm gonna say, painting the apartment white. It would look great the way it was.
It looked great to you.
Well, even the wife's like, why would they paint it? Like, I don't know.
This is the 60s. This is the 60s.
Yeah. It's just bizarre. Like I said, gaslighting, in its entirety. I know people do wood and brick headboards. That just seems really odd to me for the 60s. When they have expensive furniture, they just have brick and wood for their headboard or their bed.
And it was like loose because you see it move.
Yeah.
Like it was just bricks with a piece of wood on it. It wasn't like attached or screwed together in any way.
And they have like this pristine, probably top of the line mattress and then brick and wood headboard. I'm just going, is it only there so she can hide the pills in it? Like that the entire purpose of that entire decision? Maybe.
I don't know. It was there early. I don't know.
Man. I know she's pregnant and with the, mother of Lucifer. I'm going to take this steak. 10 seconds, 10 seconds. It's good and cooked. Eat. Ugh.
No, that grosses you out. The chewing on raw liver didn't gross you out?
I mean, that did too.
Okay, there's a tier system here, buddy.
I know, but like, why even put the sear on the steak? It's not doing anything.
Well, again, she was still trying to fool herself that technically I cooked it.
Right.
She didn't quite devolve to just eating raw liver at that point.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, the random Japanese guy at the end of the party. That was weird. Like, we recognize everyone else. He's just there.
He was there, and he was also like a very stereotypical Japanese guy who like just started taking pictures of everything immediately.
Right. I'm just like, everyone else we recognize from other things. He just never appeared in any other shot, and he's just there at the end. Which is weird. To me.
Yeah.
And let's face it, the annoying neighbor. She was annoying. She reminded me, they remind me of Ethel and the neighbors from I Love Lucy mixed with the mom from, I can't think of it. Archie. All in the Family?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what she reminded me of. Ethel Merman and the mom from All in the Family. Very annoying. All right. So we are doing number of evil babies out of 10 because let's face it, they're all about evil babies. I will go first for number of evil babies out of 10. So this is it's a decent movie. It's not as terrifying as, what people thought The Exorcist would be or The Omen would be. Because, yes, it's still dealing with the devil, the Antichrist, and all that jazz. But it's different religion, loosely based terror. Do I have a need to watch this again ever? No, I don't. But I will still give this, let's say 7 evil babies out of 10. How about you?
7's rewatch level, buddy.
Yeah, I know.
So you do want to rewatch it. You just went against your own saying.
What about you?
Yeah. I mean, I've rewatched it several times just because I do enjoy it. So, I'll go 8. 8 evil babies out of 10.
Yeah, as I said, we're generally pretty harsh on religious-based movies, but this isn't a religious-based.
Yeah, the devil is involved, but there's no priest that's trying to save people or anything. It's just like it's just told from the other side, as if the other, the Jesus side never find out.
Correct.
Just interesting.
Yeah, especially for being a template of it.
Right.
All right, next up we have Fear No Evil from 1981.
Okay.
This is
Now,
5 movies in one.
Yeah, you gave me a hard job here. Now, I got about 20 minutes in before I realized I'm going to have to take notes because this movie jumps around all over the place.
And just when you think you're following it, you're not.
Yeah, it's like you think you know who the characters are. Nope. Like, who's the main character? I don't know. But like, who you think the main character is gone for like 30 minutes. I mean,
Yes.
it's bizarre. It's strange. It not altogether bad, but it's just like, what is happening? Again,
Let's just call it The Evil Dead meets The Omen.
right. It's all over the place. So again, I took
Yeah.
notes, but again, bear with me. I still might get lost. Okay, so essentially we start out with Lucifer apparently keeps getting reincarnated into other people's bodies, right? And there are a triad of Lucifer fighters, angels.
Gabriel, Michael,
Michael, not Michael. Michael.
Okay. And
Tom. I don't know who the third one was, but they always just call him Tom, so we'll call him Tom.
Okay.
Anyway, so there's like these 3 people that were sent down from heaven to hunt Lucifer to make sure that he doesn't become too powerful on Earth. Whatever. They get reincarnated as well. So it's like a perpetual cycle. And for whatever reason, Lucifer always goes back to this one like evil building.
a tree.
Yeah. And so the old priest, who is one of is the Tom, the reincarnated Tom. He decides that, Lucifer has gone too far. He's too powerful. I have to go kill him. So he goes by himself to the secret Lucifer Island. He chases Lucifer around and kills him with a big, cross spear. I don't know what that thing was.
And let's face it, he kind of looks like a mid-werewolf transformation in some points.
He had some sweet sideburns, man. He had some sweet demon sideburns, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
And then apparently they don't explain this at that time.
Nope.
But I will say it now just for clarification. He gets convicted of murder for doing that. And he gets put in an insane asylum.
Yes.
Because he can't, of course he's claiming this is Lucifer. I did the world a favor by killing this guy. Of course, that's crazy person talk. So they locked him up in an insane asylum. Like, we get kind of flashbacks to this later on, but they don't explain why he's in like a jail or why he's in like, they don't talk about that. We don't find out until way later what happened. So that's what happened.
Why he can't leave the vessel.
Right. And so the guy can't rejoin the fight for Lucifer because he's trapped in a jail, because he's still in flesh, right? He's just a normal person. He can die, but he has to wait to die.
Right.
Anyway, so cut to a baby is born. Right after that, Lucifer dies. A baby is born who is the new, flesh for Lucifer. Right.
To very old parents.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going around, but so like pretty old parents. They have the baby, and we basically just watch the degradation of their relationship by watching how their house degrades over time.
And I'm just going to say this right now. Within the first week, the house degrades 10 years.
Right.
Only a baby being alive a week.
Right. Right. But like, so we see like, the yard is getting overgrown. The windows are getting like boarded up and stuff. I mean, it's so like the house is just looking worse and worse and worse and worse. And we basically fast forward to his 18th birthday. Right. We see that the parents are somehow still together. We hear them like arguing, like we know the relationship is not going well because apparently the child has somehow turned the mother against the father. The father kind of sort of has his own free will, but he's sticking with the wife because he still loves her. The wife is like totally under his control. They have this bizarre birthday party where the boy is, I don't know, controls the mother to make a cake, and then the lights go out and he does like shadow magic. And then I don't know what the hell is going on, but essentially it cuts that part. Like his mom falls and then he like mind controls an iron to fall on her
Mhm.
head, and then
Mhm.
she becomes like catatonic. And so he locks her in a room so that the dad can't get to her, even though she's catatonic.
Yes.
And then he leaves, and like
Mhm.
that, they're gone. Like they
Yes.
come back for one minor scene later on in the movie, but that's it. We are done with their parents now. We are now following evil Lucifer Bate, or 18-year-old Lucifer, who is still in high school.
Yep.
So we get to high school. I mean, this is high
Let's
school.
call it classic 80s high school.
I mean, if they have Fashion Victim 1981 all over them, wow. It's like they dialed that stuff up to 11. Everything in that high school is like dialed up to 11.
Yes.
Like the hormones are through the fucking roof. I mean, there's like kids like just banging in the fucking boiler room. There's like, the guy is like just slaps his girlfriend because she left the car door open. A fucking
Hell yeah.
convertible's car door open. Like,
Yep.
what the fuck? I mean, it's just, everything is just so over the top. It's just outrageous. It's like, what the fuck is going on? Anyway, so he's in here and he's starting to like develop powers, right? He's starting to like, it's almost like his hormones are giving him magic powers.
Yes.
And basically the first kind of use we see of him using his powers is first he kind of like looks at this girl in the eyes and then like basically like sexually assaults her with his mind.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, I felt him touch me, even though he didn't actually touch her, but she was like, becomes like brainwashed at that point. It's very bizarre.
Yeah.
Anyway, so his very next use of powers is he's in the gym locker room, and then they're all taking a shower together. And this is not a like stomach up shower. This is full body shower. So there's
dongs everywhere.
Yeah, there's dongs and ass everywhere. And he uses the power to like, he somehow takes over like the big bully who's like, the guy with the perfect hair, and he's like, the Mr. Cool guy. He basically like, I don't know, jacks up his hormones so much to where like, instead of fighting him, he like makes out with him.
That is a classic bully tactic.
Right.
Oh man, I'm gonna make fun of you, and I'm gonna attack you by kissing you.
Right, but he's like, it was like weird. He was like, "Oh, you got a girlfriend? Oh, do you want me to be your girlfriend?" I was like, "Wait, what? What the fuck is he saying?" And then they just like start making out, like forcibly making out, like they're both like trying to fight it, but it's still happening, and everybody's like, at first egging him on. And then they're kind of like,
yeah, you kiss that guy.
Right. And then they're like, and then they're equally like weirded out, like, wait, this is going on too far. And then like he finally stops, and then he basically he leaves and threatens everyone else not to tell anybody.
Right.
And that's it. That's
and
the whole scene.
And the guy is Andrew is like having like a convulsion in the shower.
Right. It's bizarre. Anyway, so the girl that got like sexually assaulted in her mind starts to have like these flashbacks to this old lady. And then the evil Lucifer kid dad is a mailman, and then he meets the same old lady. And then somehow they all have flashbacks to where this old lady was the partner of Tom, the Lucifer killer. And so then we find out that this old lady's like a nun who's the other one of the Lucifer killers.
Right.
And they're still waiting for the third one to come back to the flesh or whatever. So we get introduced to that plot line, and then it almost immediately jumps back, right?
Yep.
So where the kid, like, I guess gets overcome with hormones because of making out in the shower. So he like has to prove his manhood, and then he for real sexually assaults the girl.
Yep.
Like sneaks into her room at night and sexually assaults her, and then leaves. And then the next day is
now without doing shadow work again.
Oh,
all right.
I'm sorry. There's more. And then the next day, he's in gym class, and he shows up like a minute late, and the gym teacher makes him do push-ups. Yep. And while he's doing push-ups, he gets like, I don't know, a hormone rush, and he gets upset that the girls that he assaulted's boyfriend is in the class and they're playing dodgeball. And so like his powers like basically rush into the gym teacher, who's like going, yeah, throw that ball. Yeah,
Kill
come on,
him,
kill
kill
him.
him.
What the hell are you doing? You guys are, throw harder. Like, he's going nuts. And then all of a sudden he picks up a ball, jumps into the game, and throws it at the guy so hard that he like slams into the wall, and like his internal organs explode. I don't know how else to describe it. Blood just like spews out of his mouth and he dies.
Yes.
Okay. Cut to the funeral.
He got kitty eyes while doing that.
Well, yeah, no, yeah. So like, it was definitely the guy like used his Lucifer powers to like somehow make this happen. Anyway, yeah. Cut to the funeral. Like immediately.
Next scene.
Yeah.
That scene's done. Forget about that scene.
Right. Yeah. Where that's over. And now we are kind of forgetting about him for a little while.
Yep.
And now we get this bizarre scene of the old lady nun now teams up with the girl that was sexually assaulted. And she realizes that, I'm the reincarnation of Tom.
Yep.
And so they like partner up and they like teach each other, magic, Lucifer hunting abilities. I don't know what the fuck they were doing. But yeah, so they're like, now they don't have partner up and they're ready to, fight him. And so then we see the Antichrist building up powers. He's like killing dogs and drinking their blood, and
doing his best Buffalo Bill impressions.
Yeah. Bizarre. He's like got a bunch of animals hanging up. Like, I guess in the beginning, we should clarify that Lucifer had a bunch of animals and people hanging up in the same way. So it's like he's just repeating,
right?
The pattern. So he does that, and then he goes to the Lucifer Island. He decides it's his time to go there. Mm-hmm. He goes there, and he, I don't know, by pure force of will, like using his evil devil voice, makes it a zombie army.
Yes, as you do.
Right.
You make zombies.
Yeah, he's just like, my brother Beelzebub and Leviathan, like, let's do this thing. Give me some zombies. And they're like, here you go.
Yep.
So now he's got like, I don't know, 10 zombies. It's not a lot, but it's enough. And then, I don't understand what was happening. I think originally they wanted it to be like the prom, but at the last minute they changed it to be a play about Jesus.
Jesus play, yes.
So all the kids are all dressed up like they're going to prom, and they're getting drunk and shit like they're going to go to prom, but then they like go to this Jesus play.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yes. As you do.
Okay. Yeah. So then they're like, this Jesus play is lame. Let's go get drunk and go to the island and drink. Okay. So then, like, all the cool guys and all the cool girls, they jump in the boat, they go to the island to drink. And as they're drinking, of course, they get attacked by the zombie army.
What?
So, hilarity ensues. They all get attacked. Like, of course, the one bully guy who was making out with them in the shower, like,
he shows him again.
Immediately abandons his girlfriend the second anything happens. And then he just kind of like, okay, this scene is bizarre.
He gets boobs.
Okay. Like, there was a kind of a scene earlier in the movie where he was asking the Antichrist dude if he wants to smoke some weed.
Yes.
And he says no. And he's like, oh, is that because you heard it'll give you tits if you smoke it? Like, what? Who the fuck ever heard that? I don't know. I have no idea. But somehow, I don't know if that's what came back, or I think it's just Lucifer is like
talking with him.
No, he doesn't know where his sexuality is right now. And he's going all over the place. And so somehow he uses his magic powers to give the bully tits.
Right. And how does the bully get back at him? By kissing him again.
Right. Well, again, he's overcome with hormones from this. Again, like, he's all over the place. Like, the guy does not know what he wants. Like, do you want a woman? Do you got a guy? He doesn't know. Right. So he basically like tries to make the bully a woman. Trying to say maybe this will satisfy me. So he makes out with him again. Bully guy gets so upset that he essentially stabs his own tits off and kills himself.
Yes.
Cut to the next scene.
Hard cut.
And then the lady team of the two Lucifer fighters are now like ready to fight Lucifer, so they take another boat and they go to the island.
Mhm.
And while they're going there, Jesus dies on stage. Like,
He gets actually
for
crucified
real,
and
right?
like
He gets crucified.
like lightning
Yeah,
petrification, I
right.
guess.
Blood is squirting everywhere. Spontaneously, everyone in the audience just starts randomly squirting blood everywhere too.
From their hair.
Yeah. So it's like a riot ensues. Okay,
Mhm.
people are crazy all over. Oh, that's right. I forgot. The lady team got arrested at some point because they were going to go to the island, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing on the island?" They're like, "Oh, we're going to go kill Lucifer." They're like, "Just arrest them," right? And then, of course, the riot happens. They escape, so they get back on the boat, and they go back to the island. Cut to Lucifer's dad finally breaking into the attic where his canatotic mom is, who has been sitting there for so long that she now has spider webs growing off of her. And he just shoots her. Cut to back to the island. And then, of course, the lady team is now there. The whole like, Tit killing himself thing happens. The Antichrist then sexually assaults the girl again, and then sacrifices her to like try to finalize his Lucifer powers or whatever.
Sure.
And then the lady team like shoot rainbows at him. I don't know how else to describe what they're doing.
The cross spear.
Yeah, they're shooting rainbows at him. They go through the chase scene. It's basically the same exact chase scene we had with the old man in the beginning.
To the same tree.
The same tree, and they just keep hitting him with rainbow light powers.
Until he turns into a demon, vampire, werewolf, ghoul thing.
Right. And then they just keep hitting him with rainbow light powers, and then he dies. And then that's the end.
He explodes.
Yep.
Yes.
So, yeah, there's a lot. Again, if I didn't take notes, I would be fucking lost. I would be like, I don't know where to go. But like,
I mean, in fairness, I don't think anyone making the movie understood where they were either.
No, but I was like, again, I was 20 minutes in. I paused it. I'm like, I need a notebook. I need to take some notes because I don't know what the fuck is going on. I'm 20 minutes in and I barely know what's happening.
Oh, so that was your first thought then, huh?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. I was like, this movie is fucking all over the place. It does not know what the fuck it wants to be.
No.
I came down to this is like the guy who wrote this, because there's the same guy who wrote, directed, and like produced. He was like him and his family
and did some music composition. Yeah.
Right. It was like basically his film from beginning to end. I really believe that this guy, either in the past or at that present time, really had a very confusing sexuality. He didn't know where he was at.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't know if he was gay or straight or bi or somewhere in between there. He didn't know. And so this was like him and his hormones and confusion about what he wanted and what he was trying to get. And then again, what people were expecting of him. And what it ended up being is this mess. So, yes. Yeah, it is a mess, I guess, if you don't know where your sexuality lies. And it's an interesting ride. I'll give it that. But yeah, that was basically, I was like, that has to be what's going on. Because that's the only thing that kind of explains all of this weird shit that goes on.
Right.
And of course,
sure.
I guess I should mention that when he gets to the island, he is basically like a glam version of Dracula.
Right. Yeah. He's Buffalo Bill Dracula.
Well, he's got like the big flowing cape, but it's like sheer and sparkly. Right. And then he's got like the high collar, but it's like very floppy and sparkly. And he
does make sunbeams appear.
Yeah. It's very androgynous, and it's very like in between. And I think it's supposed to be. And it's just, right. It's interesting. I'll give it that.
Yeah. Like I said, for me, like I said, it's Evil Dead meets The Omen meets Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2.
Right.
That was kind of my first thoughts. Like I said, I was watching this with the wife earlier today. She goes, she's like, she looks down for a second. She looks up like, what just happened?
Exactly.
They just went to the next scene. That's all.
Yeah. It's like this bizarre shit happens and then it's like cut, next scene. And a lot of it doesn't come back. A lot of it doesn't come back. You have no idea what the hell happened.
Yeah. Do you want to do your highlights first? I think I know your highlights. 2 songs.
Oh, there was a lot more than 2 songs. There was, I would say, well, I'll start off. 1, the paintings were cool, and the paintings were original. They had them painted for this movie, which I thought was very interesting. Those sweet demon sideburns, like that haircut was awesome for the first Lucifer. Anyway, but I will say a big thing here is the music. Like they had crazy music in this movie. I was just like blown away with how many songs.
1981, like huge songs.
Yeah, again, like I mean, huge stuff. We're talking like I mean, the Boomtown Rats. I mean, the Sex Pistols, Talking Heads, the Ramones, B-52s, Patti Smith. I mean, all of these people are there. I mean, there's some of them that you probably don't know the band, but you know the song, like Blank Generation. I mean, just crazy. It's like every other scene. I was like, holy shit, where are they getting all the rights for these songs? But I guess in 81, these songs weren't as big as they were. This is bizarre. Anyway, a little side thought is one of the songs is Boomtown Rats. I don't like Mondays. The story behind that song is very funny. I'm going to make a very quick side here. There was a school shooting back in the 70s. And it was actually a woman who shot like 2 adults and like 9 children. And then fled the scene, and they called her later on the phone to talk to her, and they asked her why she did it. And she said, I don't like Mondays.
Huh.
Never got any other answer out of her. She says, I don't like Mondays. I just wanted to spice the day up.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
That song is based on that line, which is fucked up. Anyway. So, yeah, we're talking high school at 11, right? Like everything is super amplified. It's like, like the hormones are through the fucking roof. I mean, like the violence and the sexuality. I mean, the teacher is like openly like in a relationship with a student. I mean, it's just, I mean, the gym teacher is like so crazy that he's like telling the kids to kill each other and stuff. Like, yeah. Again, it's like high school, that just like amped up, just like crazy level. It's like what, I guess that's kind of what a high school person thinks like high school is, which is bizarre. The scene where the dude is like literally like screwing the girl with his gun. What the fuck? What's up with that? But I was like, wait, what? And it's just randomly in the movie. There's no reason for it. The gun is never used.
Yeah.
It's only there for that scene. And then I was like, okay, maybe it's going to be like, they're going to use it later. This is how he's going to kill him. Somehow vagina power is going to hurt him or something. Nope. Never mentioned again. Never comes back. But yeah, again, like I said, it's definitely original.
Yes.
I mean, it's definitely original. I mean, this has not been done before, and I'm pretty sure it has not been done since. I mean, maybe some weird, wacky way, but yeah, that whole the gay, straight, bi metaphor thing is definitely original, definitely odd. But yeah, crazy. But that's for high points. You want me to do low points, or do you want to do your high points first?
I'll do my high points. Yeah, the music. I'm like it says like music composed by the director and writer. I'm like, okay, we're gonna get shit, right? Not expecting. They're like all of a sudden, yeah, I want to be. I'm like, come on, like they're portraying the punk era of high school in the 1980, 81 really well with their music choices. But they listen to other music, go, this doesn't make sense. Maybe all the money, all $150,000 this movie cost went to the rights to those songs.
I don't know. Again, maybe it's 81. Maybe they just agreed to let him put it in the movie because they wanted to be like, I mean, again, if you ask like a punk band, hey, can your song be in a movie? They're like, sure. Well, back in those days, they wouldn't give a shit. They weren't about the money. They were about, the image and the style. But maybe that's why. I don't know. But there's a lot of big names in here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the set design was out there and great, but like it's very artsy too. As you said, glam rock, Dracula essentially. And just like, him touching, the statue head and just all of a sudden bright lights, the sun is shining all over the place, shadow puppets and shadow figures, shadow play. Like, dad walks into the room. It's like, oh, I'm talking to him. Like all of a sudden there's a shadow. And then dad's shadow's not moving and kind of his head's turning, but his shadow is turning with it. Really interesting choices and shots too. Because you have the girl looking in the mirror, all of a sudden she's the old woman. In the same shot.
Okay, but at that time, she had no connection to that old woman. You didn't know why. Again, this stuff just happens. You're like, what? So they're connected in some way, but how? Why? Why don't you say something first so we know why this is happening? Otherwise, it's just confusing.
Right. Yeah, those are. And you said it is different. It is unique. So we gotta give it kudos for that. Nothing's been done like that we've ever seen.
Right.
I'll roll into my low points. It really seems like when he's around the dogs, that the dog farts came back. The electronic dog farts came back from the Omen. Because they're like, you have these great punk and different songs. All of a sudden, like, oh, he's squeezing the blood out of the dog's head. And like, oh, someone's leaning on the synthesizer again. Like just random stuff.
The songs that aren't licensed are not good. Like the score itself sucked.
They do not match the scene in any way, shape, or form for the original music. I don't think.
No, yeah, it wasn't good.
No. And I'm the baptism scene, I'm like, you see the parents, I go, huh, that must be the grandparents. No, it's not. I'm like, hey, you know what? We need two actors to play the older versions of themselves. And we'll hire people that are literally 60 plus to play the young parents. I'm like, no, interesting. I don't know if like the mind control aspect of it felt very like the parents wanting to adhere to listening to the son. It reminds me of the Twilight Zone episode where the son's able to turn, the dad into like a Jack-in-the-Box. Like we have to appease him.
Right.
To no end. And I just, like I said, that's a bold move, Cotton, to make fun of the weird kid by bullying him by kissing him.
Well, again, yeah, it's just the horrible, whatever is happening with Lucifer kid. He's essentially like infecting other people with like ultra hormones that they don't know what to do with.
By the boner of Lucifer. Yeah.
So like that guy was obviously like closeted gay, right?
Yeah.
And so you give him all kinds of crazy hormones that he just wants to make out with the dude.
Yeah.
Just like the gym teacher. And like down deep, he was just like a violent maniac. And so you give him this magic powers and he literally hits a kid so hard with a ball that his internal organs explode.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like essentially what he does is like his power is to like amplify, I guess, like the inherent evils in everyone around him.
Sure.
I guess. I don't know. And then for some people, he just sexually assaults them. And that's it.
Yeah. And the bad cutting of the scene was just like, oh, scene's done. Let's move on. We even have that scene of him getting like the college admissions. Like, oh man, Harvard, Yale, Columbia. Cool. You want to use my parents? No, I'll keep hard copies. Why was that scene there? No idea. Did nothing to add to the story.
Yeah, I said there's a lot of scenes here that it's just like bizarre.
Yeah.
I mean, like there's no scenes of him as a child at all. We just see like we hear his parents arguing as we're looking at the outside of the house degrade over time. And it just says 18 years later, that's it.
Yes, like I said, the house degraded. Like, I haven't slept in a week. It's been a week and the house is already in shambles. House does not go to shambles in a week. Sorry.
Well, maybe if there's a devil Lucifer kid in there, who knows?
Maybe. That's what I got. How about you? Oh, sorry. Also slapping your girlfriend.
Well, yeah. Again, that guy was just an asshole, but
right.
But again, I think it was because he was like gay, right? And he was like trying to hide that fact so much that he was like ultra violent and like ultra sexual.
Right.
But he really was just gay. And he didn't know how to deal with that, so he was violent about
it.
Right. Weird. Anyway, so my low points. It was some of these like I was like had to change them as I was watching because things were like finally explained later on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're just things that are very confusing. Like in the beginning, I was like, why are they sending one priest to kill Lucifer? Like, if you know Lucifer is there, what the hell are you doing sending one old man? Like, you should have an army after him. But then later on, you find out, oh, like he did that on his own because only these 3 angels who don't work directly for the church at all are in charge of killing Lucifer. And even though he killed him, he was then put in jail for doing so.
Right.
But again, we don't know that in the beginning. We don't find that out until way later.
Right.
We don't find that out until the ladies team up, and then that comes out as part of their conversation. Anyway, so but yeah, that Ultra 81 style, man, holy crap! It was just like turned up, like everybody's wearing like these like garishly bright windbreakers. I mean, like
the pink ladies,
yeah,
the pink ladies,
the like the super tight pants with that still somehow have bell bottoms on them. I mean, the big feathered out fluffed hair. I mean, everything is like 81 up to 11. But again, I guess we're in high school dialed up to 11, so I guess the style would be too. I think they probably did that on purpose, I guess. God, those rainbow light effects. Basically, all the effects in this movie are horrible.
Yes.
I mean, they're just bad, but especially those goddamn rainbow lights, because they use them all the time. All the time. And they're horrible. It's just horrible, horrible bad. And again, like the shower scene, man, I guess it's progressive for 81, right? Because like again, like every guy shower scene is always like waist up.
Yeah.
Right? Never goes down. This is like full body. I mean, we're talking feet to head, like the whole thing. It's interesting. It's a bizarre fucking scene. Again, I don't know. I guess it's progressive for 81, but overall, I didn't care. Now, this movie, I don't know what it is, but it has disturbingly real dead animals.
Yes,
like the dogs that were dead were like moving like a dead dog. Like it wasn't fake. I don't know if they had a dog that was like asleep, or if they're using like real dog cadavers, because like it looked real compared to the rest of the effects in this movie. The effects sucked. So I was like, they didn't make a fake dog. So it's either like a dog that is like so like trained to stay asleep no matter what's going on, or they were using like real dog corpses. I'm not saying they killed the dogs for this movie. I'm just saying maybe they had like dogs that had died and they used, I don't know. But there was like 2 in particular. There was one that was like a husky that was hanging from the ceiling in the beginning with the old man chasing Lucifer. That looked very, very real. And then the other, the brown dog that he killed later on, it was very real looking. Like, because again, when he's like holding the dog and then he puts it down on the table, like it's moving like a real corpse. And it's it was very like, gave me the willies. I didn't like it. So yeah, I don't know what the deal was with that. I didn't watch like the behind the scenes or anything. But, yeah, that was disturbing. But yeah, in general, just the effects sucked except for those dead dogs, which were too real.
Oh, for sure.
But that's all I got.
All right, so you can go first. How many evil babies out of 10 do you give this movie?
Now, okay, this movie is fucking a mess, right?
Yes.
It's all over the place, but it is a movie that I will probably rewatch because like seeing it the second time, obviously this is the first time I've seen it. Seeing it the second time, maybe it'll make more sense because I know where everything's going.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, is this a movie that I think people should watch? Absolutely. You should watch this movie. It's bizarre. It's fucking weird. It's very different. You should watch it. So I'm going to give it a 7. 7 evil babies out of 10.
Wow. I'm surprised. Do I need to watch this again? Maybe. It is bizarre. Like I said, Evil Dead meets lots of other things. Because, like I said, the zombie effects were trying to like be Evil Dead-esque, or really Romero-esque. Do I think they could have done better with the creature effects? Yes. But you said the dogs were real looking for sure. I will give this 6 evil babies out of 10. It is unique. Do people need to watch it? Yeah, once for sure. All right. Well, last up we have Immaculate. This is easily the shortest movie of these.
No, I mean, it definitely is.
Yeah. And subtitle warning, you need subtitles just to really watch this, because a lot of it is in Italian. So essentially we have Sydney Sweeney, who's being transferred there to say her vows at this not monastery, convent. Sorry, first we should start off that it starts off with a woman who is being kind of chased by 5 black robe, no faced creatures, and is essentially buried alive, given matches, and she's screaming for help. Then we get Sydney Sweeney, who is arriving at this convent, and she has yet to say her vows. She's going to say them there. And she's kind of getting around from, the other younger nuns that are there saying, hey, you can leave before it's too late. They're like, no, I'm here. There was an accident. This is kind of what I got to do. My area parish closed just because of, not enough churchgoers. Originally the girl's like, oh, because, the priest did things. Like, no. So anyway, she is going to the ceremony, and it's all in Italian. And the priest that is there is like, okay, we'll translate it for you, which is good, because once again, you need subtitles for this. And, there's kind of going to things. She does say her vows, everything like that. So she's kind of going on her day-to-day stuff, and kind of just starts noticing some weird going-ons. She hears crying out one night, and she kind of goes into the chapel, and there's, someone dressed in dark robes with like, just what would you call like a red face mask, essentially?
Yeah, it's like a red stocking over their face.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, she's just, the Mother Superior comes in. She's like, oh, she's just doing her stuff. And like, here's one of the actual nails that were used to crucify Jesus Christ. We've verified it. It has his blood, all that jazz.
Oh, well, okay. I was gonna save it till the end, but I'm just gonna say it now. There are very, very many places in Italy that have so-called holy relics.
Yes.
A lot. So,
yes.
Like, if you counted up all the nails that they say were actually nails used to, like, kill Christ, I don't know if it's thousands, but it's a lot. Like, it's a lot more than 3, which is what they used, right? So if the number is more than 3, somebody's alive. And yes. Like, every church has these weird things. They're called reliquaries. They're like old ass things. Sometimes they're like bones of saints, which may or may not actually be from the saint. Some of, so many pieces of the cross.
Right. I think they said if everyone had a part of St. Peter that everyone claims there to be, there's at least 15 full skeletons of St. Peter.
Right. And that's the thing. And that's that funny thing. Like, I was like, because I knew that I've
right.
Like, I've read about it, and I've researched it a bit because I found it fascinating that like all of these churches still believe they're the one that it's theirs. Like, this one is real. Again, like, I mean, I think the most famous one is probably the Shroud of Turin, right?
Yeah.
Which is in Italy. It's in Florence, Italy. And they continually keep saying that this is, you know, the shroud that was put on, you know, Jesus when he was in the tomb or whatever, right?
Despite being debunked multiple times.
Right. I mean, every time they've given the shroud to scientists to do tests on it, and every single test has proven that it's not what they claim it is.
Right, because it's not as old as it should be.
Right, it's not as old as it should be. Like, the lines in it are not sweat, it's paint. You know, all of these things that they keep proving, like, is it old? Yes, it is old. It's like maybe, you know, centuries old for sure, but it's not 2,000 years old.
Right, we're talking like maybe 1,400,
right.
1,500.
Again, so that's the thing. I just find it funny. Like, immediately in this movie, I was like, ha, you know, like that's fucking fake. But
well, I think because people like you and me, we tend to read stuff like that and find it interesting.
Right. But I guess, like I've said with like the Omen movies and the Exorcist movies, I think if you're like a believer, these movies mean something different to you because you come in with a different mindset, right? You're prepared to believe and think certain things, and that's the way the filmmakers want you to be. That's where they want you to be. And when you're not there, I think the movies make less sense and they're less interesting to people that aren't in that mindset.
Correct.
And I think this is one of them. And this is the point, I think, for me, it diverged a bit.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. So anyway, as things progress, you know, she partook too much of the holy wine, which, okay, I'm sorry. You don't drink the holy wine at a normal dinner and party. Throwing it out there.
But if you're in a convent, you do.
Sure.
You drink anything you get.
Yeah.
Because you can't, you don't have any money to go buy your own, so you got to drink whatever they give you.
But she kind of, you know, got too drunk. Aaron seemingly got too drunk. She wakes up not feeling okay, and, you know, they have kind of a thing of, you know, she's learning, you know, things more and more. She's doing the laundry. She's, you know, doesn't want to behead chickens, and spooky things kind of happen a little bit. There's some, you know, muted elderly nuns there. There, you know, there's the sick ward, stuff like that. Anyway, one day, you know, she's talking to, like, she gets called into, you know, talk to the bishop of the church, or cardinal. I don't know which one he was.
Where he's wearing red is the cardinal.
Yeah. Didn't you take your vows? Yeah. What was it? You know, list them out. You know, just list them out. It's like celibacy or being chaste, right? Like, yeah. Are you sure about that? Did you ever have Congress with a man? She's like, Congress.
Yeah, they asked her if she's had sex with a man like at least 5 times.
Different ways, too.
Yeah. It's like, okay, dude, fucking get over it. And then they got a doctor sitting right next to her like, yeah, her hymen's still intact. Like, what the fuck? Get off.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. She's pregnant. And this is, you know, immaculate conception, right? And they start, you know, treating her very, very differently, that you like immediately dress her up as the Virgin Mary. I'm like, okay, that's a little bizarre off the bat. And they start doing this test, you know, and they start doing an ultrasound, like, oh, there's a baby. I'm like, she's not that far pregnant to have a baby on the screen, but whatever. So she's kind of just starts going through the stuff. We see a little bit, you know, of the first trimester, because it shows the different trimesters. And of course, you know, we can't just allude to vomit. We have to show the vomit and her picking through the vomit to find her tooth has come out, which actually does happen in pregnancy. So not that bizarre. And she just, you know, starts kind of going through the motions of this. And then we kind of just skip around a bit until she's like fully pregnant. She kind of floats into a bathing pool, and one of the other nuns come and try to drown her. She's like, what the hell? And the priest is like, yeah, we'll make sure that doesn't happen again. And well, she hears screaming in the middle of the night. She sneaks out, and someone's getting there. I think it's the same No, they gets her tongue cut out.
No, the one that strangles her in the bath
is the one that
jumps off the roof of the building
with no face.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, it looks like she may have been injured before she was thrown off the building.
A little bit.
But whatever, they're calling it a suicide. And then the next day, her like only friend person like has a freak out because she's like, okay, like the person that like touched you is now dead and you're somehow pregnant and like everybody's pretending like they're okay with it. What the fuck is going on?
Oh yeah, she's cussing. She's like gonna leave and rat people, and they cut her tongue out.
Yeah. So they take her away, and then that night she wakes up here screaming, and then she looks through a keyhole and sees her getting her tongue cut out.
Right,
but then she's also never seen again.
Right, and then she meets one of the ward patients and gives her like a weird hair doll that she made because she cut off her hair in the middle of the night. And she sees her and she has like crosses burned onto her bottom of her feet. And she starts becoming more and more suspicious. She's like, okay, I need to go to like a real hospital. This doctor doesn't know what he's doing. He's like, no, he's a obstetrician. She's like, no, I need to go somewhere else. She starts freaking out. I'm not sure much happens kind of in between this and her trying to escape. Is there?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. So she eventually, she's like, oh man, like it's third trimester. Oh man, I'm bleeding everywhere. We gotta go to the real hospital. Like, oh shit. And they start driving her. And the mother, I think Mother Superior is looking at it, it's like, oh, she coughed the heads of chicken. She squirted fake, chicken blood all over herself just to get out of there. And at this point in time, you realize what century this is taking place in. And it's now, as the priest gets called on a cell phone.
Well, what time did you think it was?
Well, I mean, it's never explicitly stated.
And the guy drove her there in like a newer Mercedes.
That's true. They're like, oh yeah, no, this isn't good. So, she like tries to run out. They realize they're faking it. They kind of capture her and they tie her up and kind of make her essentially catatonic the rest of the time and kind of feed her stuff to stay unconscious until the child is born.
Well, not before they show her what's going on.
He does, yeah.
That's when she comes back and she gets tied down, and then she does like a kind of sort of another escape attempt, and then that's when they go, okay, here's what's really happening.
Yeah, so the blood on this nail was real, and we've been I was a biologist, geneticist for 20 years, and that we cloned the DNA, and you are giving birth to the clone of Jesus.
Right.
In his Frankenstein lab with devil creatures in jars. He's like, these are all the failed experiments. You should be proud.
Yeah, it's like the scene from Alien Resurrection.
Yeah.
Where Ripley sees all her failed clones. It's essentially that.
Yeah, it's like, oh shit. So yeah, they impregnated her. I don't know if they ever explicitly state how.
No. Obviously, it was like when she was having that one weird dream where like the people were holding her down and shit. But like she was obviously drugged. It was like a Rosemary's Baby situation.
Right.
Where she was drugged and doesn't really remember it. She just has like weird dream remembrance. But yeah, whatever they did turkey-based of some sort, I guess.
Something, yeah. So anyway, she's kind of just waiting to buy her time. She's going to give birth, and then she was able to get her hand untied because she was tied up, and she just bashes the nun's head in multiple times with it was a cross, wasn't it?
It was a big heavy cross.
Big heavy cross, and she's trying to escape. Her water breaks, and she's kind of running through, and people are coming after her. She goes into the catacombs.
Not before she strangles the cardinal to death.
Yes, she does strangle the cardinal to death with rosary beads. And then she goes into the catacombs. No, not the catacombs yet. She goes into the lab and starts to try to burn it down. And then the priest goes in and is like, oh, I'm gonna stop you. She traps him in there, lights him on fire. He has the strength to burst out, but just kind of collapses. And then she's just going through the catacombs, and he's still alive. He starts following her. Eventually, he catches up to her and then starts cutting her stomach open to a cesarean. she's then able to pocket, because she goes and takes the one true nail, right, from the one true cross, stabs him in the throat. She escapes through a tunnel to get out of the catacombs, gives birth, and then sees the baby, bites the umbilical cord off with her teeth, and then proceeds to smash the baby with a rock.
Yay.
Yay. First thoughts for me was this is kind of I don't know, we haven't watched the first Omen yet. Could this have been like, the prequel to it, like some people are saying? I can kind of see that, because we really don't see what the baby looks like, other than we see what the other deformed babies look like in the cloning lab.
Well, okay, here's okay, the first Omen takes place in what year? Like the Omen, the very first, Omen film.
Takes place in 1976.
Right. So if before his birth, right? So we're talking several years before that, right? What kind of cloning technology would they have in the very early 70s? So I don't think that matches up, at least at the scientific level.
Right. And now, if they're going to say this is going to be a reboot of the Omen in the modern times, then sure.
Oh, yeah. That, yeah, I agree with that. I'm just saying, like, if you're trying to match up with the original Omen, I don't think that scientific knowledge is there.
Right. Yeah.
Because, I mean, when did they clone Dolly the sheep? That wasn't until
1996.
Yeah, so
or 98.
Yeah, that was the sheep.
Yep. But I'm like, obviously this is very, very heavy-handed religious, right? But I mean, it was was the twist interesting enough? Yeah, I think it was. It was definitely different on that aspect. What were your first thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely more church oriented than all of these. I mean, including the Omen movies.
Yes.
It's the most church oriented because essentially it takes place entirely inside the confines of a religious church, right?
Yeah.
And I think, there's two scenes that are outside of the church, and they're both fairly short, and that's it. Otherwise, it's like we're all totally in the confines of some kind of church building.
Right.
So yeah, it's by far the most religious and interesting. Like I said, in the beginning of it, it's like it really feels like, okay, like what is this weird, kind of religious horseshit? Is this like going to be a Conjuring magic type thing, or what the fuck's going on? And then at least we get to the point where it's like, okay, there's kind of a sort of an explanation, like we get an understanding of what's going on, like what they're trying to do. Like, okay, got it. Like these they've been doing this for decades.
Yeah.
So
trying to bring the second coming of Jesus to purge the world of the sinners.
Right. But like, again, like she says when she's talking to the priest, like, is it that when Jesus comes back, doesn't that mean that's the start of the end of the world? And the fucking priest just like stares at her. It's like, dude, you're the guy trying to make it happen. Shouldn't you know what's going to fucking happen?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, Jesus comes back at the end of the world. So, like, you trying to make Jesus come back means you're trying to end the world.
Right. Yeah. And, he's like, how is this God's will? Well, if it wasn't God's will, God would stop us.
Right. It's like, what kind of bizarre shit is that?
Well, I can commit this crime because the cop's not stopping me. Therefore, it's not illegal.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go to my highlights first?
Go ahead, buddy.
Okay. I think Sydney Sweeney did a fantastic job with this movie. I was reading up about this, that like the birthing scene, the screaming session was one take, and that's what she was able to do with that. And everyone said she nailed it well at that point in time.
I mean, I don't know what else you got to do other than fucking scream.
I know.
But no, she did a good job. I agree.
Yeah. And I think you felt like, especially with them not having burned in subtitles, that you are in, like, she has to have stuff translated for her, and we would too with not subtitle technology to know what they're saying.
Yeah, because some movies are like that. Some movies are like, the foreign language is not supposed to have subtitles because you're not supposed to know what they're saying.
Right.
Like, I mean, I guess the great example of that being The Thing.
The Thing,
right?
yeah.
If you know Norwegian, the whole plot of the movie is ruined in the first 5 minutes.
Right.
Because the Norwegian guys are screaming the plot of the film at you. If you
it's not a dog.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, if you speak Norwegian, oh, man, movie's ruined.
Yep. But you felt like you were there with her and the unknown, and you were learning things along with her. We weren't really seeing things outside of her perspective. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's not like we had this prior knowledge and we're waiting for her to realize what was going on there. So it's nice that we learned it with her. I said, atmospherically, it looked great. And I do like that there's a different take of it, of a science idea behind it. We'll get into the other part of that and the low points, as we've already stated about the cross nail. That's what I got. How about you?
Yeah, I did like you kind of mentioned here, like the cinematography, the whole style of it. I think it was interesting. It was very well done. I think they did a really good job kind of showing the kind of isolation that she was stuck in. I mean, like we said before, not only the language, like most of the people there don't speak the language. She didn't understand Italian, right?
Right.
So it's a lot of times she feels like that, but they're also intentionally like isolated. Like kind of putting her in the solitude thing. So she's just like kind of in this bubble where she doesn't really know what's going on. And like you said, we're learning with her as we go along. But there's a lot of things that we don't find out until way too late. Because again, they're hiding it from her. No, not the fault of the movie. I'm just saying that that's, she doesn't find out until way too late. Yeah. I also thought it was interesting that they're like, oh, it's a miracle. It's an immaculate conception. And almost immediately everybody's like, I don't think that's true. Like, everybody's like, it's a miracle. Like the Cardinal guy's like, yeah, it's a miracle. And everybody's like, bullshit. Like they all kind of felt like they're all kind of like, what? This is stupid. Like this is the dumbest shit ever. But like, I also like, I mean, that's how I felt watching it. But also, I really felt like everybody in the movie was like, sure, right.
I mean, that's the critical response that anyone's going to have to that situation.
But also, I mean, also the church does too, because there's a lot of people that claim that. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of like dumb girls who are like, "Oh, I didn't have sex. I don't know how I got pregnant." I understand they're hiding it from their parents because their parents could freak out. I'm not saying that they're intentionally being evil. I'm just saying that the shit happens often enough where they have to send people out to investigate, and so far, 0% have been true. So yeah, they're very like gonna be like, oh, okay, here's another immaculate conception. Like, of course it's bullshit. Like, of course they're gonna do it. But again, it just felt like that was like immediately everybody was like, sure, got it. But the movie just kind of moved on. It didn't really dwell on that, and I think I liked it for that. Is it just kind of like, okay, we're moving on.
Yep.
That was pretty cool. The tongue cut scene was nice and disturbing.
Yes.
It was very weird, very bizarre. I guess we should also clarify that she did find that girl's body later on when she was running around in the catacombs.
Oh, in the catacombs. Yep.
So like she did die, but like in the film, like she disappeared right after that.
Yeah.
I did like Jesus Science. I thought it was fun that like the priests were like geneticists. I was like, okay. I mean, I knew it was going to be something like that. I was like, it's got to have some kind of twist. Like they like injected her when she was sleeping. Like I didn't think somebody straight up boned her when she was sleeping, but I was like, I bet you they like, turkey basted her or something. Like something happened.
Right.
But yeah, turns out that's what it was. I think it did a pretty good job with the blood and the body horror in this movie. I mean, they, it was nice and disturbing enough, right? It was well done. And the baby death was just chef's kiss. Like, oh, that's a baby. Smash it with a rock.
Yep.
My feelings exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, you want me to roll up my low points or you want to?
Yep, go for your low points.
Right. I feel very bad for nuns. They have to bathe with their clothes on.
Yes.
Like, how are you gonna take a shower with a dress on? Like, what the hell is that? I was like, oh, maybe when it's only when they're in this communal bath thing. But no, there's like ladies behind them taking a shower with the same weird dress on. Like, that's bizarre. I mean, I don't know if that's real or not, but that's just stupid. But I mean, whatever. Religion rules, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah, the creepy fucking sex talker, they kept asking her like multiple times, like, have you had sex? Have you been in sexual congress with a man? Have you had sexual intercourse with a man? It's like, dear God, get over it. Like, you already got the doctor to say your hymen's intact. Why the fuck do you keep asking? Unless it's like you trying to get off on it or something.
Yeah.
Okay, how much blood is in a fucking chicken?
Not that much.
Holy shit, dude. That was like, it was like they cut open a fucking like Hinkley and Schmidt water tank and just dumped the blood all over the fucking bed. Because it was everywhere. It was all over her. It was like soaked into the mattress. It was all over the fucking floor, all over the goddamn chicken that she wrapped up in a towel. I was like, dude.
Not that much.
Yeah, how much blood is in a chicken?
Maybe a pint.
Right.
This is like 2 gallons.
Yeah. Well, I already brought this up earlier, but the whole Italian religious artifact being fake. So like the odds of that being Jesus are pretty, I mean, 0, right?
Yes.
So like they're just trying to clone some like random dude. You know, they probably got some blood of whoever was around at the time to sprinkle on this nail to make it look real. So they're basically cloning that guy. You know, so like they're gonna, even if he did come back, they'd be like, oh, Jesus is here. Okay, nothing's happening. What's going on? Or like, you just cloned some dude from like 800 years ago. You didn't, it's not Jesus.
That was Alan.
Right. You know, it's Antonio from 1200.
Yeah.
It was just funny. And I guess I thought the birth screaming was a little excessive. Because she's just like staring into the camera and screaming for like a full like 5 minutes.
Yes.
And it's like, I get it. Okay. I mean, I did like how they did like when she was having contractions, like they kind of like tuned out the sound, you know, to kind of show that pain is like so focused. Like she's so focused on that pain that she can't even hear anything else. I did like that. I liked how they did that. That whole effect was cool, but I thought that birthing scene was a little excessive. But apparently people liked it. So fuck me, people, I guess, right? But yeah, that's all I got. What do you got?
All right. So I agree with every single one of your low points for sure. So, you know, there's that idea of, you know, because I watched it with the wife, you know, 3 kids. She didn't scream at all, but she's different, I guess, while birthing children. And I'm just going.
Well, how many drugs was she on? I guess that's the question.
0.
Oh, wow.
But to that point, I'm just going, you are essentially have cesarean and you're pushing out the baby. I'm like, something's going to come out of your gut. I'm sorry. I don't care how strong you are. You're not holding that in. Your guts are coming out a little bit, at least.
Well, I don't know. We don't know how skilled he was with a scalpel.
That's true.
Maybe he didn't actually like pierce through all the layers of skin.
Right. And I did find it odd that if she was just going to kill the baby, why would she undo the umbilical cord too? She could just like drag it around.
I think that was just for effect. I mean, she could have just waited for the afterbirth too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think she just wanted it to be away from her as fast as possible.
Right. And yeah, like the whole blood on the nail thing, like bullshit. That's not true. I mean, it's alluded to that the baby is demonic because it's not making baby noises.
Well,
at all.
Again, it's just like the whole alien resurrection thing, right? Yeah. Like you're trying to clone something from DNA. Like that is not a thing we can really do. No. You know, like again, even like in Jurassic Park, which was like, again, it's like magic, right? You can't really do that. But again, even they had to like put in some bullshit about, we had to mix in like frog DNA, like weird shit like that, because again, it doesn't work. You can't just do that. But so like, and again, how do you do that? You have to, it's trial and error. You just have to keep trying until you figure out a way to do it. And that's what they're doing. And this is the first one that went full term. So this was just the one that was strong enough to like be birthed. I don't think it was a viable human at all. It was just was strong enough to somehow kind of be alive, but it was probably like a Belial, right? It was probably something like that. It was probably like just a sack of whatever, like not a normal person. When it's born, if your first reaction is to hit it with a rock, it's not a kid. It's not a normal baby.
No. And yeah, it's the whole religious thing that you point out. The priest's like, oh shit, we are bringing it into the world. Oh well.
Yeah, he was just like, good point. Like he didn't say anything other than the whole like, well, if God ain't stopping us, then we must be doing something right.
Right.
Holy shit, dude! What kind of fucking logic is that?
Apparently sound logic.
But that's I don't get that logic, but I won't get too far into it. I want to offend other people.
But the stories and the media takes on this movie, I find very interesting. I did a little bit of research on it. Is that people are saying, because people, Republicans going, Sydney Sweeney is, pro left, all this stuff. And then she did this movie and people are now seeing it like, she's the embodiment of everything that the Christian values uphold in this country. But if you read the notes of the filmmaker, he goes, yeah, this is anti-religion. And this is more about the empowerment of women's bodies and rights. And that's why she killed the baby. It was her going against Christianity and her going and having her own rights of her own body, which is completely opposite of what people are probably going to take this movie as.
Well, I mean, but that's the big thing about modern media, right? Is like some people, they like something about a thing and then they want that thing to be part of their thing.
Yeah.
Right. So again, it doesn't matter what Lego pieces you're attaching to these things. It's universal. It's like you see a thing and you're like, ooh, I like this thing. I want this thing to be part of my thing so that I can feel okay about liking it. And then if it's not really there, they like refuse to believe it and they will fight you tooth and nail on it. And it's bizarre. I don't get it. It's a modern day thing. So where like you have to believe in something 100%. You have to like, it has to follow all of my views and beliefs in order for me to like this thing. And if it doesn't, then I will still like it anybody, but I won't tell anybody that I didn't. Right. It's so weird and bizarre. I don't get it. It's like, people are constantly under scrutiny from social media because everybody puts everything they do online. And it's like they have to like justify why they like certain things because it doesn't fit with their narrative, right?
Right.
I don't know. It's like nobody's allowed to be, have different levels. Nobody's allowed to be in between anywhere. You have to be a thing, and anything you do that's outside of that thing, you're like shamed for. It's so weird.
Yeah. Like I said, I love seeing the responses and reception stuff like this, especially the heavy-handed religious stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, you get the crazies coming out of the woodwork, believing one side or the other side, trying to say this is what I think it is, and it's like the filmmaker will come out and say this is what I made it to be, and then well, you're wrong.
Right.
What? I think my favorite thing about that is, have you ever read Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury?
It's not what everyone says it's about.
Everyone says it's about censorship. Ray Bradbury came out and said, it's not about censorship. It's about television ruining the world. And they're like, nah, it's about censorship. So everybody says it's about censorship still, even though Ray Bradbury said it's not. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
It's so bizarre. The world is a weird place.
Yeah. And I think what's really good about this movie ending too, like in the 0% chance that would be Jesus Christ reborn, smashed it with a rock.
Again, it's going to be some Italian guy from a couple centuries ago going, what? I mean, if he brought back his memories going, shit. No, really, I'm Jesus. I mean, but yeah, like you're not going to bring back the Jesus. You're going to bring back some random dude who made a fake relic.
Right. For sure. All right, so number of evil babies out of 10. I I don't like, I mean, yes, this is anti-religion. It's very heavy-handed religious, which I don't like that part of it. It's interesting enough. I will give this 7 evil babies out of 10. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I did like this movie. I mean, is this a movie I want to watch again? No, but I'm not that far off. You know what I mean? So
Right.
like I would.
You're not mad you watched it.
No. I'm not upset I watched it. It was an interesting movie. It's not a movie I want to watch again. So I'm going to give it like a 6.5.
6.5.
It's like right there. Like I don't really want to watch it again, but it was interesting enough to watch the first time for sure.
For sure. All right. Well, that is the end of our episode for this. And, while we're waiting for this first Omen, so is this a sign or just a bad omen? Assuming the first Omen comes out in the next week, we'll be finishing up that franchise. If not, well, may we be radiated for displeasing Damien in all his glory. And we'll go into radioactive movies. So either way, it'll be a good episode, hopefully. So until next time, remember, we watch bad movies, so you don't have to. And this has been Graveyard saying, have you checked on the children?
This is Salem saying, long live the new flesh.
Good night.